Welcome back to the Secondhand Sellers. I'm Klayton.
I'm Sarah. I thought we were switching things up.
We are.
What are you going to talk about today?
I don't know.
You don't know?
So, what's been holding you up?
What do you mean?
So, you want to list items every single day, right?
Oh, yeah. Myself.
Yeah.
Yeah. I have my one worst enemy. And I'm also working with somebody else, which, getting us both motivated is sometimes slightly challenging. I think, we need a better schedule, probably. So, hopefully tomorrow we'll really... We try to most Mondays, but if we miss a Monday, then it's like...
Scheduling's super hard.
And I know, in particular, recently we had a lot of clothes and stuff, which Hannah ended up doing a lot of the photos herself anyway, but just not...
It takes a lot of extra work.
It's extra work, and it's just not high value or easy click done. So a lot of my sourcing recently, I went out last few days, and I've been able to find things that I think will be easy to photograph, easy to list, just no fuss, no muss, which will be nice. So I think that'll help. I need to get back into consistent sourcing too, especially if our sales pick up, because we did actually get kind of to the bottom of the barrel there for a while, and then it was just clothing and random stuff left over. So she's gotten through most of that. I think I need to touch base with her. But what about you? You say you're a really sporadic lister.
Yeah. Biggest thing holding me up, same. It's myself.
And I hate that about myself sometimes,
And there will be times I go to work on stuff, and then one thing will sidetrack me, and I get sucked into a wormhole of focusing on something completely not what I set out to do.
ADHD is fun.
Oh man, it's great.
You learn a lot of random crap, but you don't get anything done.
Yeah, but one of the things I did try to do before, which was really helpful, I would write down every time I listed something what the item was. Not like a for my own ledgers or anything, but for a physical piece of paper, and I would just write it down. And I'd try to get to 100 before the next month rolled over. And actually seeing that physical list and going, oh, I'm at 54 and I should be at 62 or whatever, that was super helpful. And I either went to 100 or went past 100 2 or 3 times just because writing it down.
You get motivated and you start seeing it.
Yeah.
You're it's like checking off a list, basically.
Basically.
Hannah and I did a challenge. Was that January along with our no spend? I think we did a challenge because we wanted to get through the inventory, most of the inventory we had, so that we could start clean in the new year for sourcing and keep our 2024 purchases, separate. Clearly separate, and also get through stuff. And I actually think I should talk to her about setting a numbers challenge, a goal for this month, because it's still pretty early in the month when we're recording this, and it's not too late, I don't think, to set a decent goal and try to hit it. And I think that may have helped her too.
Even if you do, because I know you said in previous episodes you want to get 1 month ahead of schedule.
I would love to be 1 month ahead of schedule.
So even if you did 60 items, that puts you this month and the next month ahead of schedule, and then you
keep
just
rolling. That would be really nice.
Month.
Yeah. And maybe I should talk to her about that this week, because it would be. It's hard because I know effort in results out. So I'm sure there are things in how we handle our eBay and how we source these things that can be fine-tuned to increase sales. But from what it seems like, again, we're a little over a year in, it feels like it really is effort in, money out. It's directly tied to how many things you're listing.
Yeah.
And I've seen videos of people on eBay that have really hardcore routines, they do so many a day, or they only spend so many hours working, but they work intently for those hours. And I think that's really what I need to do in general. Train.
So we bought our new house, and we have one railroad track about a mile down the road one way, and then another one about a mile down the road the other way, and sometimes you'll hear one go by, and then 5 minutes later you hear another one going by.
Do they honk the whole way?
Not the whole way, but you'll hear them off in the distance. Anyway, so
I live right in town, so
you're far closer.
Oh, honk all the way. Anyway, so after that little pause, what was I talking about?
You're talking about scheduling and being consistent.
I think that's a problem in general with me, and I know this about myself, just in general, in like taking care of the house or working on my garden. I'm a gardener, and it translates to the business, and there's enough there that like I'm able to keep going with the business because I do want the money, and like my motivation like dips, and so sometimes I'm super motivated and sometimes I'm not, and I need the discipline piece of it, and so I need to figure out what works, and I do think setting goals, maybe that's what we need to do. Maybe Hannah and I need to sit down at the end of every month and set like a goal for that next month.
Goal for next month, and then review your previous month and go, are you satisfied with what you accomplished?
Yeah. And so I think Hannah said for her, it helped when she timed herself too. She was doing some timing to see like how long it really took her to do stuff, or she would set a time, okay, I'm going to work for an hour or whatever, and I do think I need to do more of that. So if I was going to critique myself, it would be that. So sometimes like I don't, even if I set goals for myself or set a bar to hit, I am not always consistent with myself.
Yeah. In
the same way that I might be if we make plans to record this, I'm gonna record that day.
Yeah.
Because I've already committed to you. But if it's me, I can just go like, It is so whatever.
It is so easy to fall short on yourself.
It's so easy to do.
It's very hard to go, hey, person or people, I'm going to do X. YouTube, we're going to post every week. That puts us accountable. We got to have an episode out every week. Even on those episodes where it's like, oh, oops, we weren't able to record a podcast for the week. You go out, you get something up. Awesome. For yourself,
it's so easy to do. So those of you who are extremely disciplined, good for you. And I'm not terrible. I mean, I've accomplished things. Like I managed to go to school okay, and my neighbor has now decided to mow their lawn. So
they're accomplishing something.
They are.
Yay! We're proud of them.
Well, that's helpful. Sorry about that. Goodness. Maybe this isn't meant to be this episode. No. Anyway, I'm gonna have some editing to do, but.
But yeah, having an accountability for yourself is super difficult to do, especially when there's already so many other responsibilities just to do as a normal individual that has life responsibilities.
And especially if you're scattered at all. Like I'm a little like attention, you know what I mean? Like I'll start a task and then get distracted and then like have to pull myself back to it. And I'm not the worst at that, but I'm not the best either. You know, it is a problem for me to get distracted.
Yeah. It's like earlier this week, I've got 2 old laptops that have information still on them. And I said, I've been putting this off for more than a year. I need to take the information off those laptops, put them all on the PC. Been working on transferring files. And then, for whatever reason, I started to read some of the files that I have on there because I have like documents I've written up. And next thing I knew, it was 3 a.m. and I stopped. I had been.
It's like when you clean your room as a kid and you start digging things out, and next thing you know, like you're 2 hours in, you're sitting in the middle of the floor, your room's completely trashed, and you're
you found
look
that,
at it.
You found that book you were missing.
You have a hat on your head, and you're on your closet, you have like foam finger or something.
And the difference is, Mom's not going to come into the room and be like,
yeah.
What are you doing? You know, there's consequences for not cleaning your room. The only consequences is you fail yourself.
Maybe we should found an eBay support group.
Accountability group.
Yeah, accountability group. You and me and Hannah should have lunch once a month to like, okay, how did you do?
That wouldn't be a bad idea.
Yeah.
Because, and even you there listening in, watching in, however you consume our podcast, hold us accountable and question us and be like, hey, why is it your sales dipped down?
Yeah, yep, because we're giving you those reports once a month, so yeah, be like, what the frick were you doing this June? But I think it's hard too, especially when you take into account, because we live in a place that's really seasonal, so good weather, depending on your definition of that, for most people it's nice, warmer weather. It's scarce in our state. And so and at least what I feel like is you start to get into spring and summer, and there's so many things you want to do.
Yeah.
Because there are so many things you literally can only do for like a 6-month period max, if that. Like some of that's even less. Like if you want to go to the beach, you got 2 or 3 months maybe where it's warm enough to do that. And so you're trying to, I feel like like in my personal life, you're trying to cram as much as you can into in the summer, and then you got everything else going that doesn't stop because it's an all year thing. And then it's just extra, it's different when it's dark at 5 o'clock in the winter and you're ready for your pajamas at 4:30 because it's going to be dark at 5 o'clock and it's cold outside and there's nowhere to go anyway, so whatever. Yeah. But when it's 10 o'clock and it's bright outside, you're like, I got things to do.
In addition to that, most garage sales are during the weekend.
Yep.
So you're trying to do your own personal things, your regular life things, your, for hanging out with friends or going to do this, and your own personal, I want to go do X during the summer, like go camping.
Vacation, anything like that. Yeah. It's like you're cramming everything in there. And even estate sales, they're year round here, but there definitely is a season, and when the weather starts to get warmer is usually when you see a higher proliferation of estate sales. Yeah. So you've got estate sales, your garage sales are going up, people are cleaning out their houses, so even the like at thrift stores they're getting a lot of donations because people feel like getting out and tackling the garage. Or their pole barn or whatever. And
doing eBay, it feels as if those days you don't go and source, you're missing your opportunities. Even when you have your own stuff that you could be listing at home. Yeah. It's a scarcity mindset. Yeah, and it's bad mindset. I suffer from it all the time.
I think it's worse, like if you're like browsing like estate sales, like we talk about estate sales on that. If you're browsing that and then you can see the sales and you can actually see what's out there. So like at a thrift store, the stuff is being sold, but you have no idea what you're missing out. Yeah. So it's not, the FOMO's less. But when you actually can see it, I think that's even worse. But I don't know. It's hard. So if you're that person that like is not perfectly consistent, it doesn't mean you can't do this and that you can't take steps to get better and better and better. Yeah. And I think life's a process, so no one's born perfect.
Another thing, which reminds me, I need to actually pull that out of my garage. So you were saying that Hannah was like documenting and keeping track of her time.
I think she has a time clock or a time sheet on her phone.
Yeah. So even if you just said, put 30 minutes out of your day, you're going to do X for whether that's I'm only taking pictures of items or only going to describe or list. That's 30 more minutes times 7 that you're going to be putting forth. That's 3.5 hours of effort you're going to be putting forth in comparison to nothing.
Yeah. I think there are things that we have streamlined over time. I think basically, like I said, Hannah's doing a physical inventory now. So usually when things come in, she writes it down in the book. And that's helpful. So by the time it gets up here to be photographed, then it can sort of like already be written down and that record's already taken. So I don't know. It's a work in progress. And I think too, the space that we're working in, it's kind of in flux and trying to figure out how to organize stuff, especially if we bring in something weird, because that's the thing with resale is like, unless you're doing only, like some people only do trading cards. They only do, I don't know, whatever. Clothing, yeah. So the organization of that is much more straightforward. It's not to say it doesn't take a lot of space or that it doesn't take time to get it right, but like, it's a lot more straightforward. Whereas like, I have lamps and I have random dishware and I have glasses and I have paper. Like,
and I think
books.
People like us, we need that variety, because otherwise the job's going to be monotonous.
I like a lot of different, sometimes things are just interesting.
Yeah.
And then some stuff, it's just, even if it's not interesting, it sells.
Yeah.
I sold a DVD VHS player. I talked about this before. I think you sold them. They sell, and sometimes you can get them for $5 or $6 at the thrift store.
You get them for cheap, and they sell for $50.
I'm not gonna. It's annoying a little bit because it's
big,
clunky, and kind of annoying to ship. But I'm not gonna leave that $40 sitting there,
right.
And so it's not the true for everything. Because like I said, there are things that I've walked away from that I could have picked up that are just no. But a lot of the other stuff, it's just like I'm not niched enough to not have like a weird storage.
You're not,
vintage still is really wide.
You're not niched enough, and you're not financially stable enough to be overly.
I would love to have a separate space
picky.
I would like to have a separate space for our stuff. Really, like it's not that our home isn't big enough to handle it, but I would just like it out of my
living
life space. Yeah. And we have a garage, but we don't have a garage that would be
beneficial for that.
Not super suitable. Like we're probably going to move some of our larger boxes or whatever out there. Like there's some stuff that we could store out there, but our garage isn't large enough. We don't have a pole barn or something, so we don't have a garage large enough to share our cars, lawn stuff, tools, and our business.
Well, maybe.
And it's not heated or cooled.
Maybe you could look at getting a storage unit eventually, but you gotta be able to justify that extra expense.
Yeah, and it's just when I have the space, it's not ideal. And so it's not to say it won't change over time, because it may. And the other thought was if we got, for one, if we ever got a booth, a lot of our stuff could go there and could be stored there to be sold there. And then if we ever did down the line open a store, like we've talked toyed of, and I don't know when that would be or if it'll ever happen, but if we did open a store down the line, then that could be easily transferred into a storage space, even if it was just we have 2 shelves in the back that is our stuff. So it's a mixed bag, because if we get 2 orders, I don't necessarily want to drive 15 minutes to pick it up and ship it, but I also, everything's a trade-off in life, I guess. Everything's a trade-off. So you've recently, you've always had kind of a separate space.
Yeah, kind of. There was a brief period of time where I didn't, where I was putting everything into Rubbermaid totes and storing them in our closet in our bedroom.
That kind of sucks.
A little bit. Especially, that's where we were putting the cat food. So all the time my wife would have to go move all the totes out of the way, put the cat food in there, put all the totes back. She was getting sick of it pretty quick.
As with most people.
And then we ended up getting a garage at the apartment, and that was great because all the stuff went into the garage. But I still had to go out to the garage and get the stuff and bring it in to work on it or to pack it or
you didn't have like an actual workspace.
Yeah, and now I have an office and I have the pole barn with my inventory, so everything is separate and it's not bleeding into my home, my living space, and it is phenomenal because I take it into my workspace, I list it, it goes into a bin, that bin goes out to the garage, it gets put away, the bin goes back into my workspace with the stuff that has sold throughout the day. I package it, it goes into my car. It's boop, bop, beep, boop. Done.
Now, that's still in flux too, right? Because you plan on actually eventually moving your office to
Yes, eventually I want to actually build a room in my pole barn. That way I can heat or cool just that room instead of the entire pole barn. But that's probably not for another year or so down the road. So that way I can have funds to actually throw money at it. And but that way everything will be in one space. I won't have, okay, this item sold. Take it back to the house. I print the label and package it and all that. Extra steps, but it's not that bad when the pole barn is I don't know,
Yeah.
100 feet.
It's not like you have
away
to
from my
drive to a
house.
separate location.
Right. It's I don't have to drive to a separate location, and it's also not taking up a space in my house aside from whatever I bring into my office area to go. I'm working right now.
That pole barn is a little jealousy inducing. Very nice to have one that way.
It's so nice.
It's decent size, let's put it that way.
I was cleaning it earlier this week. Both rearranging the stuff that just got dumped in there, because when we moved, my inventory just got shunted out of the garage and into the pole barn because we were kind of pressed time-wise, trying to get everything out so we can return the U-Haul, and so all the stuff got into the pole barn before the pole barn even got cleaned down. So now I'm going through and wiping.
And you're going to move stuff away.
Move stuff and then sweep and wipe it down with wet wipes and put stuff away. But my shelves are up. I only have like 4 shelving units, but they're so nice to have. And I want to get more, but they are expensive.
What kind do you have?
I just have like a couple of metal, with like, it's like plywood that sits on the shelves themselves. I got them for at a garage sale.
Okay.
I paid like $7.
Are they the ones that they're like a strip of metal like this, and they have like the
little brackets that snap in place? Yeah. And if the boards weren't sitting in there, they'd be really, really flimsy.
Okay.
So I have 2 of those, and then I have 2 that I bought off Amazon that are metal wire. Those ones are pretty sturdy. And then I have another metal one a buddy found on the side of the road, that's super flimsy. Like, you just barely touch it. You barely touch it, and the whole thing is like whoa, whoa, whoa. So I decided to only put packaging material on that. So
if there's an avalanche, it's
if it is what it is.
That's
and then
funny.
I just have a bunch of totes and totes that stack on top of totes.
How do you organize your stuff? Because mine is not. It's not as organized as I would like. Like, we don't have a catalog system. I've seen some really crazy organization systems on YouTube. There's some really long time, well-established sellers that have fairly sophisticated systems.
Like they'll print labels and put them on each.
Or barcode, like all kinds of stuff.
Yeah.
And ours, we have certain areas where like we keep paper or photos or whatever, and then most of our books are together. And then other than that, we have shelves that we just have to like put stuff where it fits.
Yeah. I have shelves where I try to put like my electronics I put on one shelf. Or I have media. All my media that are books or paper go into one drawer, and then all my DVDs go into it's one of those 3-drawer storage organizers, and then all my DVDs and video games go into another one, and I try to keep it semi-separate, and then all the clothing goes into, I have a 27-gallon storage tote. So I have a formal clothing bin, which is more button-up shirts, dress pants, stuff like that.
No t-shirts.
No t-shirts. All the t-shirts and just jeans go into the other one.
Okay.
And then I just put index cards when I've handwritten what's inside of them and stuck them on the end, so that way I don't have to be like, oh, that's wrong one, and open up 7 different things. And for right now, it's fine. It gets my job done. It would be nice in the future to be like poly bag, bloop, especially for like the clothing, because
have it
pre-folded, because right now I fold it and I'll put it in there, but then when I'm rummaging around in there, I might dislodge a couple things, have to refold it later anyway. And that way, because another thing I do, I get these labels from Amazon. It just says, thank you for your purchase. Please don't forget to leave a review. If you have any problems, don't hesitate to reach out to me. And I put those on every single item that sells. Sometimes not the item themselves, like I'll put it on a Ziploc bag or a poly bag before putting the item in. It would be nice if I got to a point where I could take all the clothing and get those clear poly bags, fold them, put them in there, put those labels on. That way they're all...
just stick it in a bag and send it off.
Yeah, and But if I were to do something like that, it would be nice to actually label those ones, because I would hate to look at a bag and be like, oh yeah, that looks right. Oops, I shipped the wrong one.
Yeah.
And
You almost have to have like a cataloging system or a barcode system or something.
And that's something I don't even know if I'll get that far with clothing itself.
You've said that you want to phase most
because
of
I kind of want to
right?
get away. The exception is new clothing, because new clothing is just easy. Like,
you don't have to inspect it the same way, or
you just gotta look over it and be like, yeah, it's got the tags and list it. And just the other day, something sold brand new. It's only been listed for maybe a month.
Mm-hmm.
But how much effort did that take me? Not very long in comparison to something that has been used. I have to wash it and all that other jazz. Anyway.
All that, like, so the care stages you have to go through to make sure that the clothes are good to sell.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think one of our big, like, what is a hamper to organization is how many breakable things we sell.
Mm.
So, I mean, that's a benefit to selling things that are not breakable. You literally can just stuff them in a box or in a tote and be done. And we have so many breakable things that it's like we have to have shelves or something. Yeah. And a lot of our stuff is irregular. It's like little tchotchke stuff, and it's just, I don't know. We'll figure it out eventually, I guess.
I think you could even do boxes with that stuff, but you're gonna want like some shallow boxes or something.
Yeah,
like
or
printer
like
boxes.
A box where you could put a hard piece of cardboard in the middle and then stack them. I don't know. It just open shelving or a cabinet is probably the best bet.
Mm-hmm.
If we could get some sort of like better looking cabinet where everything was not out in like, because if you guys can't see it, but we have open shelving in the room. We're actually filming in the room where Hannah and I store our stuff.
It's like being in an antique store. Because everything's kind of on display.
Yeah. And it's open shelving, it's boxes, it's whatever we've got. Bookshelf, like paper organizer, that kind of thing. So there's not the behind closed doors clean look, which would be very nice, but we are also cheap. And right now, where the business is, I would rather use inexpensive things that we already have, or like I said, inexpensive things that we find, rather than spending a couple $100 that we could be paying ourselves on unnecessary storage. Yeah. And I think if it develops, if we get a store, or if we get a booth, that'll evolve, because a lot of those bigger awkward things can be shuttled other places. But for now, we do with what we can. So I think that's the name of the game, especially in your first few years, is save the money where you can and do what you can with what you have. So.
And overall, just because it doesn't look appealing, it doesn't look exactly how you want it, if it's working though, it's not necessarily broken. So
no, and we try to keep the smaller stuff in bins, and the glass stuff we have to keep places that won't be knocked over. And recently, you know this because you actually have seen the various stages of our mess. We've done some reorganizing, so a lot of our books have been consolidated into a couple of places, and we've moved things around, and we have most of our clothes in one spot, and that kind of thing. Because, like I said, we don't do a lot of clothes, but we do some vintage stuff, select. But I'm hoping some of that stuff sells too, and it gets out of here. It's not too bad. I will say about clothing, it's super easy to ship, which I like about it.
It's so easy.
But Hannah hates photographing it, and it is a whole nother level. And especially if it's like a delicate material, like a t-shirt, whatever, you can throw it in the laundry, no big deal. But
your linens and
silk, anything like that, you have to, or anything delicate like older garments, a lot of times you have to soak them and hand wash. You can't throw them in the machine. So
extra steps, is it worth the money?
Yeah. And some stuff's just, like I said, it's too cool, and so I don't want to leave it because it's cool and I can get it for a good price. And part of me, maybe that's the little sentimental piece, that it's just too cool to leave. I don't want it for myself, but I would like to, deal in it. But I don't know. Anyway, do you have any more to add to this conversation?
No, I don't think so. I think that's a good place to leave it.
But anyway, thank you so much for joining us at the Secondhand Sellers again, where we talk about all things thrift, resale, and secondhand. If you've enjoyed listening to us, please like and subscribe. We appreciate that. It helps out our channel. And comments too. We love those always.
Put choo-choo down there for trains.
Okay, yeah, we had a bumpy episode thanks to the train conductor. So anyway, have a great day. Happy thrifting.
See ya.
See you next week.